Single Point Lyra Weeks 7 and 8. We're starting off with a straddle bar, same as last week. And for this, we're going to start with a pronated grip with our hands close together. I think about keeping the bar close and our arms strong as we draw the bar down into our hips. Similar to the way we would for inverting the pullover and the like. We want to try and get the elbows at our sides so we can straighten them at our sides as we take our knees high and wide towards the armpits, and then take them wide as we get our hips under the bar. We want to watch out for round back because it'll make it very hard. Our hips will drop and our hips will stay very heavy. So pulling the ribs through the arms and trying to really push into the ribs will help us find our balance here. And then you can always go right into hook knees and practice just hanging by knees. We use trainers for things. But the goal here next would be for meat hook. So for meat hook drills, best practices from just the straddle is isolating the leg while we try to move the other, maybe tap the bars or bring them to one side. If we can bring them to one side and fold with the legs parallel to the ground, we might be able to start taking a hand away or bringing the hand up to the ear before we come back. And then for climbing up, we can do the more traditional, easy pull-up crunch, slide to crunch and climb our way up to seated, or we can continue working on the knee beat, which would be crunching and dropping into the swing, little extensions and crunches to keep the momentum moving. So when I'm on the front side, I can crunch up and try to reach my hands to this about halfway position on the bar like I would for crunch and climb. Getting it here is a good place to lift the hips and straighten the legs and find yourself to seated. And then next, from here in our seated position, we have our span roll to sparrow. For this, I can do this with like a span lock, meaning like I can put my hand through the span if I want, or I can flamenco. The span lock will probably be the easier grip for most people, and it's a good practice for the skill we're gonna do next. But if I flamenco my right hand and I drop my hips back, I'll take my right leg off the bar and then my left hand thumb facing me right next to my thigh, and then I'm rolling and turning away, letting the bar get caught on my thigh and under my butt in my sparrow position, leaning away from the bar. Then dropping my back leg so I can bring my hips over the bar, move my hand to the top bar, and find myself in my single leg support to exit. You can also roll this all the way around if you want. Thinking of it kind of like a beauty roll, leaning away. But the primary description in the syllabus is to just do that half turn into that sparrow position and come out of it. Then next, we can do, like I said, the span lock, where I'm just trying to get my fingers through so I can get the span to my wrist, and then I turn and grip, much like a flamenco grip. As far as gripping onto the span itself, it's not quite as much of a shoulder twist, but then grabbing above gives me my lock. And then we can think about scooting our hips back and maybe just practicing getting our toes to the bar and pushing away. If this feels good, we can start dropping the legs away to hang from our span hand and pushing into the bar for our span lock bar flag. Lifting both legs back up and in will take you back to seated. You can also go into things like cuddle by just putting on the single leg and reaching the arm through. The next skill that we're talking about from the inside the round position is this hipster bird, and it is described as coming from the cuddle position. It can be done from seated as well, but for this, it's just a nice positioning because we've already done this cuddle roll to back body balance, and the process is the same. So with my right leg over the bar, my right hand will be high, and then my left hand, I'm going to be trying to reach under my leg here. But so if I reach under my leg and think about tipping upside down so I can slide that leg up and roll like I'm going to my back body balance, then I can crunch up and get my other hand up just somewhere above halfway. Then I'm trying to scissor my legs on the bar and think about train track sliding or hip extension, sliding myself up into an inverted position and then turning my front leg down to the ground like airplane. So I'm pushing my back thigh into the bar and looking to the floor for my hipster bird. Taking that front leg and hooking the bar, keeping my shoulder in front of the bar, I can release and slide, and it'll drop me right back down into my cuddle position. To exit. Then from our hipster bird, we have different means of getting into Icarus. So Icarus is a hawk's hang or knee hook over the span, and just the span specifically. So the easiest means to get there would be coming from seated or directly from standing, but we're going to talk about it from seated. And the ways of getting up there, I could just pull up and invert, where I'm straddling and hooking over the span, or I can use my feet to train track slide up. When I'm first learning this, using that train track slide is really helpful, because what I want to do is make sure that I'm hooking really high on the span and kind of settling down in towards the bar after I hook the span. That way my knee pit is really the part that's grabbing the span, and my leg isn't sort of over the bar. I want it to be over the span and turned in towards the same side hip when I'm hooking. So using my train track slide up to get my hips really nice and high can help me get my knee up higher, so that maybe when I'm ready I can hang if I want to, hands free. But the first transition out of this is this bar spin to standing. So if I think about, because my right leg is hooked, I'll crunch up and take my right hand through the bar up to the span above my knee, and then I'm pulling the bar up towards my chest to rotate it and catch it with my toe. Then I can climb my span and take my leg down to the side to exit through standing. The other entrance into this Icarus is from this J-flyer. And J-flyer comes from standing. It's a little more challenging. But once I open up the spans, I'm going to hold on to the right span with my left hand high. I'm going to push down into the bar with my right hand wide, as I take my right leg through and across to the left side and try and get my butt crease to the bar and my hip to the span, so I can push down into the bar and find a hip key where the bar lift is trapping my thigh, and I'm able to then really fold into the span. Then from this position, I'm going to think about lifting my top leg up to push into the other span and maybe pose in the J-flyer, or just take my leg through and think about guiding the bar across my hips as I go head down. And then I'm just going to get my hands outside my hips like I'm folded over the bar. I have now one leg trapped inside the span and one leg trapped outside. So what I'm going to do to get to my Icarus is bend my free leg over the leg inside the span, and then take that leg out of the span to hook the span. And that'll give me my same Icarus position that I can hang from if I want, and I can also do the same bar spin, reaching for the span and rotating it through. From here, the other thing that I can do, use the force. From the Icarus position, standing into the bar, we can do this bar slide to cuddle. With my bottom left hand, I'm going to push the bar into my thigh, and then think about keeping that left leg through as I unhook and then rehook from the span to the bar, and then slide down butt through the bar, guiding myself to catch my body on the bottom bar for this cuddle position to exit. I can reach high, thread my way out to find myself seated. For the last couple skills we have bell beats. So for bell beats, I'm gonna start by grabbing the top bar above my shoulders in a pronated grip, and I'm gonna hang from my hands in front of the bar. My first goal is to keep my legs wide and straddled and keep them the same distance apart as I just try to side crunch and find swing. And it's just a little side crunch drop. So that we're finding the same kind of swing, but just side to side. As this gets strong, I can start to pull elbow into the same side hip to get more height. And that pull is purely coming from the arm to assist the crunch and make the hips rise higher. The natural way to stop this would be to think about just killing the swing and drop and squat. We could also work on trying to just build a quick swing to pull up and find your way back to seated. All of those are great challenges for our swings. And then our last bit here is sort of a borrow from trapeze, where we're gonna melt to the backs of our knees. So for this, I'm gonna think about being really wide. First, trying to get my hands high and wide and my legs nice and wide as I sit my butt back. And I'm bracing into the bar here. Then I'm gonna think about dropping my butt down as I fold my chest towards my thighs, and then catch the backs of my knees still high above before I'm ready to then bring my arms together slowly so I can drop further and catch hanging my knees. From here, I can just exit through straddle by grabbing the bar between my legs because my legs were nice and wide so the bar is available. But the other thing we can do is this ankle hang. For ankle hang, what I'm thinking about doing is really trying to pull up into the bar so I can get my hips as high and close to the bar as possible, and then take my straight straddled legs and catch my ankles flex with my toes tight, slightly turned in. There, really pressing one and turning in, I can hang from the ankles in my ankle hang before I return to that center bar grip and drop out through my straddle or just into hooked knees. And then I can exit and be free. Ta-da!